Hey girl, hey. Yeah. Let's go. Hey girl, hey. Let's go.
Hey girl, hey, welcome to the Hey Girl, Hey podcast. I'm your host, Kim Miller. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. My third week of the men's takeover. What's up?
What's going on?
I got my photographer. Chris, introduce yourself. Let the people know who you are.
Hi, I'm Chris Martin with 126 Photography.
My photographer, I would like to claim you as. He is the bomb, y'all. I know y'all have seen his work. He is amazing. I'm so happy to have you. First of all, I say this each week on this, but I'm so glad to have some men here because that rarely happens. Normally, if I get men, it's because they're here with their spouses. But I have recently found out through you and a few others that there are some men that want to come on the podcast.
Yeah, we want our 15 seconds of fame. Also, you know how we need love too.
Well, you gonna get all the love because I loved hearing my men talk. I have to kind of make my man talk because he's not a talker. So if I can get somebody to just talk on their own, I'm like, yes, please come share. But I want to talk to you obviously about photography. Okay. But I love hearing about people and how they what their upbringing was like, what they're growing up, all that kind of stuff. So give me like a quick history of your life, what that looked like for you growing up.
So when growing up, I was raised by my grandparents. Okay. My mom and dad had me at such a young age, which is we still laugh about that to this day because my mom said my dad lied about his age. So
it was some trickery going on.
When I call my grandmother mom because she raised me.
Okay.
So she said she got the phone call. She was like, not my son, because I think my dad was only 12 at the time, but he was turning 13 that April.
Oh Lord!
But my mom was like, he lied and said he was. But then again, they were both in high school. But she's older than him.
Oh.
So, but that's how that happened. So, and then with my mom, my birth mom, she me and her, still good communication. We talk every day.
Okay.
My grandmother on my dad's side wanted my mom to finish school. Okay. So she offered to take me in and raise me. So and then that's how that ended up happening with me being raised by my grandparents. Yeah. And so I have been living with them ever since till well, not now, but
so, obviously you have your own
after
family.
High school, so.
And you grew up in Houston?
I grew up in Houston.
Okay.
Yeah. So
first of all, I love that story because so many times you hear. Well, first of all, you hear of pregnancies, like teen pregnancies, they normally don't even come into fruition. Let's just be real. But this one actually came. You were born. Yeah. And then your dad's mother said, I'm going to take care of you so y'all can finish school. That's also a very plot twist.
Yeah. So my grandmother on my mom's side, at the time, my mom's mom was on drugs real bad. Okay. So the opportunity to put me in a better situation, so she... Because, my mom would talk about it to this day. She would say, I want you to know that I was, I said, I never felt any type of way because you made the best decision that you felt. And then too, as parents, it's still our job to protect our kids from whoever. It could be dad, aunt, mom, auntie, whoever, from people. Yeah. It's still our job to protect our children. So I never felt any type of way. And I feel like, and I told her, maybe it's because I received so much love from. And I feel like when you receive love, you don't really think about what's missing until maybe some occurs in life. You're like, oh dang, I didn't, I think when sports came around is when sports and girls, like, okay, I can't really talk to my grandparents about sex. Yeah. Or, then my grandfather was a truck driver and he couldn't teach me how to play sports. He had a bad back. So I'm kind of okay, where's mom and dad when I need them? But I had family members, cousins. My mom was still there when we talked. She would tell me be respectful. Yeah. And that's how that occurred. But
I love that so much. What a beautiful story.
Yeah. So I think it's honestly, I know because when I kind of embrace it. It's not because it could have went either way. Yeah. So
that is very unheard of that it went the way it went so early, but look how you turned out. Now you're an entrepreneur and you have your own family and you have a relationship with your mom. What about your birth father? Do you have a relationship with him as well?
Me and him are kind of off and on.
Okay.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you this. My dad is a go-getter.
Okay.
He is a go-getter. But you know how sometimes you have those people that they don't understand the growth.
Yeah.
They just want it now.
Yeah.
And then some people to where it bothers them when they can't do it right away.
Mm.
So he, instead of him taking the proper steps to build up to getting it, and like everything takes time to grow.
Yeah.
So he's like hyper, too hyper to where he'll do things to where like it may affect family, us, or whatever. We be like, just be patient.
Yeah, go through the process.
So, but my dad actually served around, I want to say, 20 plus years in jail.
Oh, wow.
For a murder that he committed, and would have been self-defense, but he did some things that made it where he couldn't claim self-defense. But guys getting into it, and so that's very unfortunate for someone to lose their life. But with him getting out and us giving him the support and everything he needs, I guess it wasn't enough. Maybe, I'm not sure.
Okay.
And he just and I understand, like we all want more, but then sometimes we just get to the point to where we're not patient.
Yeah.
And it's just like, hey, it's gonna come. We just have to be patient and to where we are strong enough to handle what we want in our lives. Yeah. So.
Wow, I love your outlook on all of this.
Yeah, I think because I kind of went through some things like that also. When after I graduated high school, I moved to Maryland. I have an aunt that lived in Maryland, close to the D.C. area, and she said, hey, you should come out here, try it out, see what you like. And out there, I met my daughter's mom, and I had kind of actually got in some trouble myself with, hanging out with the wrong crowd. So that kind of forced me to start over. So when I came back to Houston, me and my daughter, and I, it was a process of starting over, getting back on your feet, or getting back to where you were, and it worked out for me. So, but I knew, hey, whatever little job I took, it was just like, okay, this is
like a stepping stone.
It's a stepping stone to where this will get me from point A to point B.
Yeah.
It's not my final destination.
Yeah.
It's just, I'll never forget. I asked this lady who I don't know. Sometimes at first I was kind of upset because I used to beg her for a job. It was to make burgers. And I know it sounds so, and I said, man, she said, no, you're not going to make the burgers the way I want you to. And she turned me down. So, but then I got a job working in the oil and gas industry. So I'm kind of like, well, maybe that was a good thing that she turned me down, so, and, but at that time, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm trying to, turn things around, take care of, at that time, it was just me and my daughter. Yeah. And so my grandmother, which I call Mom, I'm going to call her Ruby, she, don't worry about anything else, just get back, as a mom, just get back on your feet and do what you need to do. Yeah. So she was very supportive, and she, whatever I needed at the time before, I didn't have any transportation, so my dad would get up, take me to work, and I'll come back. And then I ended up buying like a little $500 cash truck, which I still have because my wife always tells me, you need to get rid of that truck. But I'm kind of like...
It's nostalgic for you?
I'm kind of like, I remember when I didn't, when I started over, I didn't have anything. Yeah. And it's like, I'd rather get rid of my new car than my truck. It's just something about it. Like, so, and, because that truck, it took me, it was a $500 1994 Ranger. Wow. This guy was a retired post office worker, and he had it in his backyard. He said, my wife made me get a new truck because it's just a little single cab. It was giving him back issues. Yeah. So that was the best $500 I ever spent, and I still have that truck to this day.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so Quito's always like, you need to get rid of it, I don't know why you drive that hoopty.
Because he has a really nice car, may I mention.
And I said, well, my mom always said an ugly ride is better than a pretty walk.
That's the truth.
It is so, and I always thought about it like, well, if something was to happen, God forbid, I'm always, praying for the best and kind of preparing for, what may come. I I'm like, I'd rather get rid of my Audi than my truck, cause I mean that maybe because like that was my.
That was your support. That got you.
Yeah, they got me from. Yeah, that was a struggle. So you have to. Yeah, so it's like you can't just. Oh, I'm good now. I'm So, but yeah.
Hey, you know what? I'm not even mad at that. Like that is I feel like, and this is why I love interviewing people, because you learn so much. Like I would have never known you have such a positive outlook on just about everything.
I try to, but even when I talk to other people, I ask them like, hey, what made you think of that? Or could I ask some people different? I know my view is not always correct. I always want to get other people's insight on how they see things, because it also teaches you, like you may see things a different way versus. Even when before my daughter was born, this guy I was working with. I said, man, I'm not sure how to take care of a child. And this may sound so simple, but when he said it, he was like, man, just do it. And I was like, it made sense, but it was so simple.
Yeah.
It wasn't like no words of wisdom, but it was just do it.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's right. Yeah. Because there's no instructions there. You just have to provide them the foundation to get them. And that was like, dang, that made so much sense, but it was like simple words.
The simplicity clicked with you though, and you took care of your daughter by yourself. How was that journey for you?
That was I'll tell you this. Me doing that made I don't know, like now with women, stay-at-home moms, that they say being a stay-at-home mom is like another job. Yes. That actually, like, I can agree to that. Yeah. Like, because when it's just you. In a child, like, and you're attending to that child all day. Yeah. So I can agree to that. And but that was it was just me and my daughter. So it was and first it was my first child, so it was a lot of lessons then. It made me, because I used to be so what's the word, so relaxed or so, but then it made me be more responsible for for her, and even also for myself, because of like, okay, whatever I do is going to affect her. And that's when I realized, like, hey, what I do affects everybody around me, not just myself.
And how did you meet? My girlfriend Taquita is your beautiful wife. How did y'all meet? When did that come? So you came back from Maryland. You're back in Houston.
I'm back in Houston. So I met Quita. I came back in Houston, I believe 2012. I met Quita 2016, maybe 16. I want to say. I met Quita. Which is funny, because me and Quita talked. We went to the same elementary school, but we didn't know it. Oh. It's funny because we're like, you went to Houston Garden? We're like, yeah, I was like, I don't remember you there. But we did. So it's funny because we kind of met in the DM.
Okay. You slid in the DM, or she slid in the DM?
No, Quita was being nosy to her neighbors. Her neighbors was outside. I think they was using an electric lawnmower. And I think I said something to her like, oh, look at you being nosy. And Quita always say, if you let her tell it, she would say I was beating around the bush. But I was really just casual conversation. Yeah. So, because at that time, like I said, it was just, I'm like, I was kind of like in a bubble. Yeah. At that time. I had some failed relationships. So I was just kind of like in my own bubble. But I never forget, there was this pastor that I was listening to. He would say, your walls must fall. And I was kind of like, and he went back to, at that time where he was talking, where Trump wanted to build walls. And I was kind of like, wow, that, it kind of made me like, how can you expect some blessings when you're trying to stay in this bubble? Yeah. I was literally in my comfort zone, like, nah, I ain't gonna do that. I'm gonna stay here because it's safer here. Yeah. And that, but I always wanted my own family. Yeah. So even growing up, I saw, my uncles or my cousins have their own family to where, and I just always like, okay, I'm gonna have my family take them to see Big Mama, to go to the country, and then I was always like in weddings as the ring bearer. Yeah. So I was like, I wanted that when I grew up. Yeah. So, and I was like, I also wanted my daughter to have, a family environment too. So when I met Quita, so I said something to her in the DM, and then the conversation went to where, well, maybe we should have a drink. But at this time, I was living in San Antonio, working. And then I said, well, hey, I'm gonna be in Houston this weekend for my aunt's birthday, so we went out on a date, and me and Quita, it's funny because we stayed up talking all night, like just talking, and then I think the next morning we probably met up again to go have breakfast. I believe we did, yeah. So, but we just stayed up all night talking, and it was just really getting to know each other.
Yeah.
So she, but one thing that that stood out to me was how Quita would, she had, matter of fact, Harper wasn't born yet. Harper was just about to be born. Quita had like a room for her nephew, and like, it just, and when I saw that, my aunt used to have a room for me at every house she had.
Oh, wow.
And when I was going, I was like, wow, that made me realize like how unselfish she was.
Yeah.
To have a room for somebody else's child.
Right.
You know, to look at her nephew, like, you know, for him to have his own room at her home.
Yeah.
Me, I'm like, well, them your kids.
Yeah.
You know, so that, and Quita, the one thing Quita has, I would say she's always better than me.
Yeah.
As far as, she's the better side. She's like what I would want to be, as far as, because you know she's very unselfish, very giving.
She is such a giving person.
But we like she have her ways, but she's very very down to earth.
Yeah.
Very. Like she's my gift from God. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, I love it. And his eyes are watering.
I know, right? Look,
I just want to put it out there. I love it. I love her. You're absolutely right. She is such a sweet soul, and you are blessed to have her.
Yeah, she's cool. So and then Quita is funny because the way she just holds it down and like really supportive and really I don't really know a word to describe my wife. So she's the better part of me, I would say. Yeah,
I love it. I hope you describe me like that, Jesse. Okay, so you were working in oil and gas.
I was working.
So when I first started working with you, you were doing photography full time, but then you went back into oil and gas.
So I went to market in 2020. I think right before COVID did what it did, and then the oil and gas market did a dump, and so I was a supervisor, and so I'm always kind of like, oh well, the first ones really go kind of like the salary guy. It's business. I was kind of like prepping myself for that. And I'm like, I'm taking all my tools and work stuff out of my truck. Like, hey, let me get this, and because people are like, how do you know you're gonna get laid off? I'm like, I don't know, but it's a possibility because of me being in a supervisor position, and then if you're trying to cut payroll,
they're gonna take this out.
So, and then too, I was a work commuter, so me traveling back and forth from Houston to San Antonio, so just like it's just like anything with expense. So if you're trying to cut expense, like it comes with the territory. And then plus that wasn't like our first time dealing with oil and gas market dive, and like I kind of seen it before. I survived other ones, but then at that time I wasn't a supervisor yet. So I survived the other ones, but I also like transferred in different positions until things came back into a better market. So when that happened, when I got laid off in 2020, I was doing photography as a hobby. I was doing it as a hobby because I wanted, that was my thing. That was like my golf. And when I got laid off, people were like, oh, you should do photography full time. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do it full time. Like that's, I was, I'm like, you got to meet people. Because I'm really reserved. So, but I said, you know what? Maybe this would help me come out of my shell a little bit, because you don't know who you're going to run into or how that personality is going to be. And then learning the business side of it is a whole nother, track itself or channel itself. So then I was like, so then I was like, okay, I saw a position opening back up, and I was like, man, let me go back to work. Because I was scared. As a married man, who's you're supposed to be the provider, the protector, and and as a married man, I'm kind of like, I don't want my wife worried about, if like things get bad, where finances are gonna come from. So let me go. It was an entry level position. I was like, well, let me go back for benefits or so. And I was like, I told Quid, I was like, man, it was a small entry level position. I was like, I'm not making any money here.
Yeah.
You know? And she was like, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, I think I was providing more with me doing photography. Mm-hmm. And Quita said, as long as you have a plan, she said, I'll support it.
Aww.
And she was like, just make sure you have a plan before you make any decisions. So, and I think we prayed on it and talked about it a little bit more. And then I was like, man, okay, I'm gonna go back to pursuing photography full time.
So when I met you, that was when you were in the hobby space?
Because
you were still so good. Your work was so good.
I think when me and you met,
that was 2021.
That was 2021?
Yeah.
Okay. That was like coming out of the hobby phase into the beginner of running a business.
Yeah.
Like, because it was so many people that they did have their business.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, how do you handle this?
Yeah.
How do you respond to this? Like, it's weird because I never really know how to respond to people.
Okay.
And maybe I'll just, because I'm an overthinker.
Okay.
So I'm like, nah, if I say this, it's going to sound crazy. Nah, if I say this, maybe they're going to take it like, and it's the people are just like, no, just say what it is. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So on the business, like I said, like I'm very reserved. So I'm kind of like, I'll speak to you. Like, I'm very cordial. But it'll be like, okay, I don't know if I have anything in common with this person or so. And that has always been like I got to come out my shell a little bit more. Yeah.
But how did you, in terms of skill for photography, because so many people are getting into photography now, but there is a certain skill that you have to possess. And I feel like you, at least when I met you, your work was already very top quality. You have to,
it's almost like it's almost like a boxer. Let's say you got a boxer in the ring, and I can stand there and see him box. I can see him throw jabs. But with boxing, it's also a technique.
Yeah.
So you have to keep at it. It's like a rhythm or like a reps. You have to build your reps.
Yeah.
And because when I first started shooting, I was like cutting off hands, heads. If it was a female, the necklace would be crooked.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of like, okay, let me make sure her necklace is crooked.
Yeah, you're very into detail.
So those would be the things the mistakes that you make, you learn from. So it's like, okay, now I'm better with this. It is just everything comes with time.
Yeah.
So just like I was saying about my dad, it just comes with time. And but I'm one of those people like I ain't gonna give up till I learn it.
Yeah.
So and Quita tell you she would be mad like when you come to bed, it'd be 2:00 in the morning. I'm watching YouTube. Like, I'm pulling people like, hey, can I shoot you? Can I do this? And it's just building reps to where you can get to a comfortable point to where, because I would be nervous before a photo shoot. Like, I'm not, hopefully it just comes out great, hopefully, because you want to make sure you capture the vision that you guys have in mind that you came to. So that was
you are fire now. You are my favorite photographer now. Do you feel confident in your work now?
No.
Really?
No. I guess it's one of those deals like, maybe because like we're all so hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
It's one of those to where like I know it could be better.
Okay.
I could have did this. But photography is art. It's also subjective. So, but sometimes as people, we're mainly in our own heads about how we do our things. And like you said, you like it, and I'm kind of like, people always say, why don't you teach? And I'm like, I suck at teaching. For real, honestly.
Good.
Because I'm like, I don't really know how to. It's certain things. I think like there are certain things even with teaching, but then I think sometimes people got to understand like, hey, there's certain things that you can't really teach. There's gonna be some things that you pick up, like I said, reps.
Yeah.
Your moves may be a little bit different from mine.
Yeah.
But I could teach you the basics, like to get you started. Like hey, this is how you get started, or this is what I would do to give you some like insight on what to look at. Mm-hmm. But there's also gonna be some things because some people get too dependable on coming to you or like depending on like, oh, if you like it, then that's the approval. Yeah. You still have to have your own approval versus because it's like I said, it's art, it's subjective. Yeah. And but I feel like I don't know if am I explaining myself well enough? Or am I speaking too fast? But I try to take my time to be thorough with it.
Yeah, so. I thought you did a great job, and I was like, man, that's really good. That I didn't know you had only been doing it for a short time, doing photography for so short.
Yeah, but I was also blessed enough to but I took like workshop classes, and the guy that was teaching the class, me and him became real cool.
Okay.
So that helped out also. Then the other group, my other friends, to where, it's funny because we're so hard on each other about each other's work.
Really?
Like we crack hard jokes. Like you guys would be like, wow, y'all are terrible. Stuff that shouldn't be said.
I wanted to ask you how you came up with the name 126 Photography.
Oh, it's my birthday.
Oh.
Yeah, but it started, I kept seeing the number, y'all gonna think I'm crazy. I kept seeing, like, if I look at the clock, it'd be like 126 at the time.
Yeah.
And I would tell everybody, like, I keep seeing this number. And then, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna name it 126.
Yeah.
And then it's funny because I played the lottery for one time and I won like $400.
What?
Yeah, so it was
That's your number.
That was the number. So I was like, okay, so I was like, that's how I came up with the name with because it's my birthday, and then I was like, I kept seeing it.
Kept seeing it.
Kept seeing it, and then somebody was telling me it's your angel number or something.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, and then I was like, okay, maybe I need to look into it. So, and that's how I came up with it.
Okay, I have a number like that I always see. I don't know what I could
but
even do with it.
But it's crazy though, right? You be like,
it creeps you out.
Yeah, it does. Like you keep saying it, and then when you tell other people, they're kind of like, they're like, oh, you crazy. And then I have a friend. He bought a man, it's a motorcycle. It's a Ducati. Okay. And the model number was like 126 something. And I was like, told you. And then he bought it on my birthday, 126. I was like, see what I'm saying? I was like, hey, bro,
it's something to that.
So he called me. He was like, yo, I think it's something to what you were saying. But I was sending people screenshots like, why is it like? Yeah. A matter of fact, I tell you what. There's a video I did for a Breaking Real Estate Group. Okay. And I know we can't show. Well, you guys won't be able to see, but I'm gonna show you the video before I leave. Okay. One of the agents was standing facing me, but behind him on a microwave, the time was
126.
Watch, and I was like, cause I'm watching it again, I'm like, wow. Yeah. Like, and the people like, you just did that because it was 120. I was like,
no, I listen, I will never call you crazy because my number is 524, and it'll be like I wake up in the middle of the night for something to drink. The clock 524. Yeah. Or I mean, it happens so often. So I've never really looked into it, or I don't know what I could even do with it. But it always happens, always. Yeah, so I believe you. You are not crazy.
I was like, I think something bad gonna happen to me on 126. And she was like, no. And then one of my friends, she said, that's your angel number. Well, I went to school with her. She said, that's your angel number. Yeah. She said, you should look it up.
I'm gonna look it up because I'm interested, because it is something for me. It does kind of make you think like, man, is this bad? Like, is it? Yeah. I guess our mind automatically kind of goes there.
Is that where my time is up? Is that my due date, expired date?
Yeah.
Like, right. Like, quit. Look at the life insurance. Look, I love y'all. Just just make sure my kids are okay.
Carry on the legacy. No, we gonna make it something positive. I love that you did that. You're very optimistic.
Oh man, so. Oh yeah, cause I mean, Quita was like, stop talking like that. I was like, I'm just saying, I want y'all to be good, So.
It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, I believe. Now, we are in such a space. I talked to one of my other guests about this, of entrepreneurship, and everybody wants to be their own boss, and everybody wants to have side hustles. But I would imagine the good and the bad to that, because you've been in corporate as well as in this space. So what can you say to speak to that?
Oh man, entrepreneurship is definitely a learning curve. Yeah. Or it's definitely something that you have to have a mental for. Actually, speaking to Jermisha Goodo, the broker of Breaking Real Estate Group, I used to say, my sister-in-law says, how do you find time to juggle family? Yeah. The brokerage, yourself, even time for yourself, and then kids, and then friends. So when you're trying to, not necessarily force something, but trying to create a balance, it kind of maybe maybe you're trying to. It may come off as a force, like okay, I'm gonna give you 5 minutes, give you 5 minutes, give you 5 minutes. But she said you just have to do the best that you can with each day. Like, hey, it may come to where you have to spend a little bit more time here than with than on this side.
Yep.
So I was like, that was a good learning curve. And I say if you are wanting to get into entrepreneurship, it's definitely good to surround yourself with other people that are in entrepreneurship or businesses, because they have the mindsets, or they grown the mindsets of knowing how to be as business folks or just to run a business. And but the goods, there are some, like, of course there's definitely some pros and cons to it, because when the pros are like, yes, you are your own boss, and some of the cons, I wouldn't necessarily say a con. It may be some of the fears that that we'll probably feel, like that you'll probably get. You like, okay, maybe not a fear, the uncertainty of just like it's like you stepping out there, you're not sure what's gonna crack,
right?
But because like we all know the market changed, like there's no, I know everybody's looking for that constant number within the market of nowadays in today's society, but there's like, you don't find your average, like how this person worked a job for 35 years or 40 years. You have so many people bouncing around due to whatever the market conditions are. So, and it's almost like there's, when people say, oh, there's no loyalty to where you would keep a guy or a woman on a job for a certain amount of years, they can retire there. So now it's like, well, you know what? I gave oil and gas 10 years of my life. Let me have something for myself. To where, I have something to show for myself versus like, the cars, the house is cool, but also, like you said, a legacy to pass along. If my kids decide to pick up photography, maybe something different, now when they grow up, it may be some new trend. So, I don't want to necessarily say a con. Maybe just there's definitely some days where, because you may not just know how to handle certain deals because it's new. And but I believe it's also a blessing, because it is what you make it. So, but as human beings, we all get that uncertainty, like, oh man, what move should I make? But then you got to thank God, like, you know what? Thank you for giving me the options of blessing me to have options.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Because we also look at like, oh man, we stress out. I don't know what decision to make, and then you just gotta really like pray on it. Trust that he'll guide you. And if it doesn't work, then just know that I always say lead, save some money for bail. I know what people think of the drug game when you say that, but I was like, nah, bail could be mean bailing you out of a situation, bailing you out of a not necessarily a bad situation. It
just
could
an
be
emergency.
Just an
something
emergency.
unexpected.
You gotta have, you definitely have to have that bail money. So I call it bail money. That's just my term, but. Just to get you out of that situation, it don't necessarily have to be money. It just could be a foundation where you can step over here if needed. So
always have some options.
Always have some options, and then because I know sometimes we will stress ourselves out, like I don't know what to do, and then because I'm like that, I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I should do this or should I stay here, but then you're like, you know what? It's a blessing that God gave us the option, so like, because not too many people have them,
right?
Like, so they either have to do this, or so not too many people have those options. So.
And it's like you said, like you're betting on yourself. When we go to these jobs every day, we normally may not even know the CEO, not know like how none of that, but we go there giving 150%. Why not give ourselves that same energy and see what happens?
See what happens. And then because it's just like me working in the oil and gas market, you see that does a roller coaster, and you like, it's still a fear there, so it's like, well, I'm gonna have an uncertain here or an uncertain there, so it's kind of like, well, at least let me have something on my own. And then too, my aunt always say, nothing beats a failure but a try. So I was kind of like, okay, you know what, let me try. At least at the end of the day, I try. I know we don't want to fail, but it's also a learning curve, like, to where you can bless them. Like, hey, when I did it, I'm not trying to tell you how to do it, but when I did it, this is some of the things to watch out for. Or so. But sometimes there are things to where I talk to some business people to where they had a business and it was kind of like maybe the business was ahead before of its time, and now you look at everything is online, whether it's like shopping for Amazon, and now it's kind of like now they can jump back into it because it's like it's come back around. It came back around. Yep. So I'm gonna make a joke real quick. Remember, I don't know if you remember the movie Baby Boy. Yes. remember. I think his friend name was Pete. Yeah. Remember when Pete was selling the clothes out the back of the truck? Yeah. They was boosting the clothes, and I was like, and now look at all of the boutiques. I know. Now, so that's like, basically a pop-up shop. That was a pop-up shop ahead of its time. Like yes. Like wow. Like that's so funny. If you think about it, like you know what I'm saying, like. That was, now it's kind of like, what are the malls going to do? Yeah. Because then, too,
we're moving away from malls for sure.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like, okay, it's convenient because it's like, then it's, you have that one-on-one, maybe you do have that one-on-one conversation with, whoever owns the business. Yeah. You get to see it, like you have social media where they can showcase it in a different platform, like out and about. So, it's like wow, and I think about that like man, Pete was onto something. Pete and Tyrese, they was like, why do we not catch on to that? Like it's so
that's so funny. That's true though,
and that's true. You were like, dang, that really came to action to it. Now you look at the boutiques, it's like this is, and some of them $1 million. Absolutely, I'm like. Dang, Pete. Yeah, Pete. They were just, remember when Pete went into like, oh, you can wear that. I see this. Like, you ain't gotta do all that. But I'm just like, but nah, that's just my little joke for today.
That is so funny. Well, I mean, let me tell you, I have thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. I'm gonna text Quita like, girl, your husband is so nice and has a story.
She gonna be like, oh, he alright. No. Right. No, Quita. She it's funny because we were talking the other day. She was like, you never told me the story. Like, I'm very intrigued, and I'm like, you want to hear that story? So yeah.
Yeah, I think more people should share their story because you just never know what people have gone through and what. Yeah. I mean, I love hearing people's journeys.
Yeah, because, and I tell, even in photography, because you have people like they wanted the shot to be perfect. Yeah. And I tell them like, hey, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. Yeah. Because there's always somebody that sees you. And they were like, I can relate to them. And they want to ride the growth with, or they want to ride along with you to see your growth. Like, hey, kind of like, I remember you was this tall. Now look at you. Like they can relate to you. So because we all have, like you said, we all have a story. We all have something that we've been through. We all have our ups and downs. We all have our peaks and valleys to where we learn something from. And that's why it's relatable to where like, oh, I'll share my story with you, and we all can, you know what I'm saying, see each other's different visions of how it came alike. So.
Yeah. Well, I definitely appreciate you for coming on the podcast.
No problem. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Of course.
Look, I know when I joked, like when you was like, oh, come on. I was like, oh, she just saying that's Hollywood talk.
I don't play. When people say they want to come, I'll be like, come on. Because, I mean, you know what? That's one of the reasons I started the podcast. Is like I want people to share their stories and their experiences because so many of the podcasts I listened to back before I launched mine, it was always like celebrities or people who already had arrived to these places that we aspire. It's like, I want to talk to people like everyday people or people who might have just popped off. Like a year from now, I might even can get you because you're going to be so big as a photographer. But to hear your story, like I think that's more, for me at least, that's more inspiring than seeing somebody who I feel like you're so far ahead of me. I don't feel like I can connect to that. Yeah. But we all like a lot of, I mean, I would love to interview A-list artists as well, but I will never stop interviewing people who have like stories that are still very reachable, but they're also like they out there, they getting it. So that's what you're doing, and I love it.
Thank you.
Tell everybody how they can connect with you.
So you guys can connect with me on 126photography.com. You can chat with me or send me an email. Or if you want to reach out to me on Instagram, it's 126_photography on Instagram, and also on YouTube. I just launched a YouTube channel, so I talk a lot about or you will see me doing a couple of shoots with different photography gear. So if you want to learn more about photography, check out the YouTube 126photography on YouTube. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I know y'all gonna enjoy this episode. So bye girls and bye boys. Bye, I gotta say on this segment.
Hey, girl. Yeah.